Here's a question I get a lot. My spouse and I are amicable and we want to keep the house after the divorce. Is this possible? And what do I need to think about if we're going to do something like this? Yes, it is possible. But it's very risky, and you're going to want to make sure that you've thought very, very deeply about a few different questions. First, you want to think about setting boundaries and parameters. For example, how long do you intend to keep the house together? Are you going to want to keep it for some minimum amount of time, some maximum amount of time? What happens when you're done with this arrangement? How are proceeds to be divided? You're going to want to think about if circumstances change. So you might be amicable now, but that doesn't mean that you'll always be amicable. It doesn't mean that you'll always be in the same financial situation. What happens if one party stops paying, is unable or unwilling to pay their share? What happens if someone gets remarried and now all of a sudden you have to be concerned about someone else's rights, their new spouse, on your potential joint property? How is title held and how would that be affected? You really, really want to work with a professional as to these questions. This is not the type of agreement that you want to draft on the back of a napkin. Of course, you want to think about use and possession, right? Is only one of you going to be living at the property? Is that going to be compensated somehow? Are you keeping the property until the children are a certain age? You're going to want to think about rules regarding management and payment of expenses, right? Is one of you going to be managing the property? What happens when there are expected or unexpected repairs? How does that get paid for? What happens if one party refuses to pay their share? In the rare case that you're physically sharing the property, which it doesn't happen often, but it does happen, what does that look like? Is that going to actually be something that works for you, right? Is the property going to be physically divided somehow? So I've seen this situation sometimes when you have two buildings on large acreage, something like that, and maybe that can work. But honestly, you really need to think about all of the awkward scenarios that can arise and if it's something that you can actually handle. Because if it does fall apart, it can get very, very messy, and you really want to think about every possible complication before you agree to something like this. And if you do agree to something like this, then you want to think about a solution to every possible complication. And that solution is having very, very clear expectations and boundaries and having that in writing. And you want to work with a professional to make sure that you've really thought out every scenario and that that scenario is reflected in your agreement. My name is Dory Goikman, and I'm a divorce attorney and mediator. I work in California, New York, and New Jersey. I assist clients all over those areas arrive at amicable settlements to their divorce disputes. I'm here to provide information and answer questions that you might have, so please share, like, comment below.